Welcome back. Myself Sumangla Brother. Now so far we have learned about entity authentication and what are the drawbacks comes under in this entity authentication. So in this video lecture we learned about cryptographic password protections. So this is the cryptographic password protections. You may have the question why we go for cryptographic password protection. So as if I take any company or any organization, all the user authentication is very important. That authentication is based on the entity authentication, that is based on your password. So first we have to make registration to that particular company database. So while making registration you will enter your password and user information. Those information goes and stores in the system. So next time while doing the authentication you have to enter the same password and that password and store database password it compares. If it is matches then it proves that yes you are the authorized user and you have the authentication to enter to or use that particular company information or access the resources available in that particular company or organization. Here I taken the example of Unix operating system. As we already know that in Unix system you are storing the password in the path that is the /etc password here. So now here example is, so for all the passwords are now it is available in this particular path here. So if the attackers know that if they try to access this particular file where or folder where these passwords are stored. So once if the attackers able to access now, then it's become the problem here. So that's why instead of storing those password as it is, you can provide the protection using the cryptographic concepts. As you already know that if I go for the client and server, all the client informations or passwords, user informations are stored in the server database. So in the server database, how it is stored? It is stored instead of storing that password as it is, it stores the hash value of the password. Yes, here you are using the cryptographic password protection as a hash function here. So that is the one example, and this is the one more example. Here also you are providing the security for this password. So for that you are using the concept of what? DES encryption algorithm. Okay. So instead of storing that password as a plain text, you are converting that as a ciphertext, and that ciphertext is stored in this particular path here. So let's see how it works. Okay. System clock, it generates 12-bit random number and that one we call as a salt, and with the help of that salts it modifies your DES encryption algorithm. Okay, so that modification we denote as a DES plus updation of the DES algorithm. How you are making updation? You are making the updation with the help of the salt. Salt is what? It is a 12-bit random number generated using the system clock here, and this is your plain text. Okay, plain text contains the 0 bits. How many 0 bits it contains? It is 64 0-bit string we take as a input as a plain text here. And for that plain text you are generating the ciphertext. For generating that ciphertext you are using which encryption algorithm here? DES plus, that is the updation of the DES algorithm. So now for this you require the key as a password, and that password is equal to 8 here. 8 ASCII characters. Okay, 8 ASCII characters you are taking as a password, and as you already know that each ASCII character is of 7 bits. Okay, and if I multiply this 8 ASCII character with the 7 bits, we'll get a key, that is the 56 bits as a key here. As you already know that key required length for the DES is the 56 bits, and that 56 bits you are generated in this way. And once you are applied, what are the output you'll get? No, that is your ciphertext. That one once again you are taking as a input to the next DES plus, that is the modification or updation of the DES algorithm. And here input for this one is the ciphertext of the first round. So next in the second iteration once again you will run this DES algorithm and you will get the output, that is your ciphertext, and that is the input to the next iteration. Like this you will perform 25 iteration. After completion of the 25th iteration, what are the output you will get? No, that is your ciphertext, and that ciphertext you are storing in as a password here. In this way you are providing the protection to the your password using the cryptographic function as a DS algorithm. Okay, so is it clear? Okay. Next is dynamic password scheme. So here what are the password scheme I use now? This password scheme is what it is static. Okay. So now here once if it is okay used as I told earlier 12-bit random numbers as a salt, and using that you are modifying the ES algorithm and plain text, and this procedure is repeated and it is static. So instead of going for static you can also go for dynamic password schemes. So in the dynamic password schemes, you are using the password functions. Okay. So that password functions you are using. So now here it is what? Why I use the word as a static means what? You are using the fixed password algorithm, that is the DS plus algorithm. And in the dynamic password scheme, every time along with the password, okay, that password function you are using. You are not using the password here. Instead of password you are using the password scheme. That's why you are using the word as a dynamic password schemes. So as I told earlier, if you are using the static password, so in the static password what happens here, only once at the entry level you have to prove your identity. So while proving your identity to claim your authentication, you are using the entity authentication. Entity is your password as a authentication. Once if it is proved, and after that third party or attackers can play the role of you, and they can perform the further operation, as I told the example of the ATM and hijacking of the person. So to prevent from such type of the problems, here you are using the dynamic password scheme, and for that password you are not using that password as it is, and dynamically you are changing that password with the help of password function. And to prove the freshness of the password function, you are using the or any one among the three mechanism. You can also take the help of the clock based freshness mechanism, or sequence number freshness mechanism, or nouns based freshness mechanism. As you know that in the clock based you are using the hardware clock device, and in the sequence numbers you are using the sequence database, and in the nouns based you are using the pseudo random generator, and that pseudo random generator generates the random. That one you are taking as a challenge. So challenge is generated or sent by the sender, and for that challenge you will get the response from the receiver here. So that's why even for this nouns based mechanism you can also call as a challenge response mechanism here. Okay, so how this dynamic password scheme works, let's see. This is your random number generator, server side it is, and user here. Server side they are using the random number generator to generate a challenge here, and that challenge it sends to the user. So before that users will use the pin, okay, and it sends the that pin to the token, and token must be activated here. Here you are taking the help of the smart token. As I told earlier, in the smart token it is like a card, and that card you are having the magnetic chip that contain the informations related to the user, and to activate that you require the pin here, and for this pin you are using. So as I told earlier, what is the difference between smart card and the smart token? In the smart token you are using the password function here. So what are the pin you will enter? No, that pin it converts as a pin is your password, and that pin it convert as a function, and with the help of that password function it converts that pin as a ciphertext, and that ciphertext it transferred to the server here. So here that pin first you will send to the token, and token will be activated. How it makes the activation? First it checks whether that pin is correct or not. So after entering the user pin, token will verify if that pin is correct, then token is activated. So now with the help of this token you will take this input, and that input is the challenge here. Once token is activated, this challenge you are taking as an input to the token, and in the token that is the password function. Token is what here? Password function. So for the password function you are using the challenge as an input, and you are performing the or generating the one that password function it sends the input to the encryption algorithm. This is any encryption algorithm, and here you are using the key along with the encryption algorithm. You are providing the key, and with the help of this key and encryption algorithm you will get the ciphertext here. For this, your challenge is your plain text. Okay, it takes as a plain text, and for that plain text it runs this encryption algorithm with the help of this key. Okay, and that output you will get as a ciphertext as a response, and that response you are sending back to the server here. User will send the response to the server. At the server side also, for that, okay, this encryption algorithm and key is known by both the server and the user. They secretly share this encryption algorithm and the key here, and with the help of that encryption algorithm and key, server will generate the ciphertext, and that ciphertext and the response ciphertext, if it is same, based on that server will decide that whether that user is authenticated user or not. So this is how dynamic password scheme works here. So this challenge is what? Randomly. So it is challenges like if I take your online banking. So in the online banking, what is the procedure? First you have to enter your username and password. While making transaction, you have to enter your OTP. OTP is like your challenge. Okay, that OTP is the one time pad. Only once if you are make the transaction, after completion of that transaction, one more transaction if you want to do, then you require the another OTP here. Okay, so that OTP is what we call as a challenge here. Okay, in this way you are using the password function to change your password here. That pin you are using, converting as a ciphertext as a response with the help of this challenge here. And this challenge, for every session you will get the new challenge, and that's why. So now here it is what? It is password is not fixed, and once if any attackers will guess that password also, with the help of the password, sending response or generating this response is the highly impossible. So analysis of dynamic password scheme, as I told, here you are using the local use of pin. So here also you are using the pin, and you may have the problem of that pin. You have to secure this pin here. Okay, so that is the one problem. If you are if you are not provide the security for this pin, any other third party, if they watch while entering your pin, or if they guess what is your pin, then it's become the problem here. So this is the first step, because you have to prove that activate that token. First you have to enter your pin here. Next you are using the two factors. Along with the pin you are using the password function here. So that is the second level. Even for example, if the third party know what is the pin, with the help of that pin is that third party is not able to generate the response here. Why? For generating the response you require the token. So you have to activate the token. For activating that token you require the password function. So that password function, it is known by whom? It is known by the user only. So third party, if they know only pin, with the help of the pin, that third party can't do anything, because that key information, that's why you are using the term as a two factors here. Along with the pin you are using the password function to generate a response here, and that password function is require the key and algorithm. Those things are known by the user only. And dynamic response. So dynamic response, as I told, for every challenge, what are the response you will get? Note that response is the different here. Okay. Once if you are in, then only you will get that response, and immediately you are dynamically you will get that response based on your activation of the token here. Okay. So based on these three steps, what are the procedure you are using? So based on this one, you can prevent from the static passwords. What are the drawback you will get from the static password? As if I know the pin, and after that third party don't allow you to make the further communication with the help of the pin, so that third party can't do anything. So every transaction, whatever the procedure you have to follow, no, then that person is required. Third party is not able to do the further communication with the help of this pin here. Okay. Next is zero knowledge mechanism. So one more mechanism is there. So one is the cryptographic based and another one is the dynamic, and one more mechanism is the zero knowledge mechanism. So why we go for zero knowledge mechanism? This is requirement for mutual trust here. So as I told, in the entity authentication, you require the unilateral, okay. So in the unilateral, sender has to prove the authentication, but from the receiver, you not, okay, require any authentication. So if you want to go for mutual authentication, then you have to go for zero knowledge mechanism and leaking of information. So in the dynamic also, as I told, if I know the pin and what is the key, okay, usually pin and C key are the very important. Those two you have to prevent securely. If you are not provide the security for the key and the pin, then okay, third party can access that information. So leaking of information is possible in the dynamic, okay, password mechanism. To overcome from that, you can go for this zero knowledge mechanism here, okay. So this is the one analogy for the zero knowledge mechanism. This is the example. Assume that main cave entrance, this is one cave and you want to enter this cave here. So for entering this, okay, so whenever you entered, you don't know that there are the two, okay, splits are there or two paths are there to enter the further path here. So while main entering, so now here you are using the one more third party here, okay. So one more person you require to prove that authentication. For example, if you are the client and you want to communicate with the server, directly you can't communicate here. Before that, one person comes in between the client and server. That one person you call as a verifier. So that verifier will verify the identification of the client, and after verification, if it is everything is correct, then only it allow that person to communicate with the server here. So that is what we call as a zero knowledge analogy here. So in the main cave entrance, I am the user, so I can't directly enter here. I have to take the help of the guide here as a verifier. With the help of the verifier, I'll enter this cave here, and after entering that, I have the two paths here. So A and B here. So A and B are the two paths, and these two, okay, path, okay, whatever using. So with the help of the guide, okay, you have to choose the any one path here. So a guide know the knowledge of this path, okay. So if the guide choose the A, so then with the help of that path, so guide, okay, will reach this particular code. And here also you are having the door of the stone, okay. To open this door, so here you have to perform the some key phrase. So when you enter that particular key phrase, then only the stone door will open, and with the help of that person can reach this path B here, okay. So now this guide know the what is the key phrase has to be used to open this particular door. In the same way, B also know the key phrase to open the stone door here. So this A and B are the two verifiers here. See, though they know the key phrase, and this know, okay, what are the key phrases used by the A, it is not known by B, and what is the key phrase it is used by the B, it is not known by the A here, okay. So this main cave entrance, whenever I entered, so for example, if that, okay, verifier, okay, don't know the key phrase, then what happens here? So now that, okay, if you are go to this path, you have to wait here, and this, okay, verifier will or guide will reach this particular path. So while reaching that, they have to pass that key phrase here. So for passing that key phrase, what is the possibility? If that guide A enter this A path A, if that okay, guide will select this path. So first, before trust that particular A, the, okay, so what is the procedure you have to do now? So you have to check whether that verifier is the trusted verifier or not. For that, what is the thing you will do now? So here you will stand and you will choose which entrance to enter next. So guide will decide to choose the cave entrance here. So now once if they choose the A here, so then you have to wait there until he has to come back from this entrance B here. If that verifier comes from this entrance B, then meaning of that one is what it is? Yes, this, okay, A is the verified user or trustee, guide, and you can trust that particular person, and with the help of that person you can move to the next level here. So if for example this A is not a trustworthy. So if the A is the attacker, then what is the thing the attackers will do now? They will enter, so but they don't know how to open the stone door, because for opening the stone door, what is the thing you require? You require the key phrase. So that attackers don't know the key phrase, then what is the thing the attacker will do? He will come back in the same entrance. If that person comes back in the same entrance, meaning of that one is what? That person is not a trustworthy here. Okay, so this is the knowledge, okay, zero knowledge analogy here. Zero knowledge mechanism is very simple. So here what is the procedure you'll do? So here you're using the prover and verifier. So once if it is verified, then only you are allowed to move to the next level. So in the next level, once again you have to prove your identification. So by using the some complex, okay, methods here. So here on every entrance level, so here you are having the multiple levels. On every level you have to perform some complex password mechanism, okay, that is any mechanism you can use here. After performing that complex operation, so you are allowed to enter the next level. In the next level also, to pass that level you have to perform some more operation, and what operations you have to perform, that is known by you. If you are past that particular level, then you are allowed to the next level. Like this you are passing the multiple levels, and while entering the first level, you don't know how, you don't have the any knowledge regarding the next level. When you reach, then only you will get to know that there is the one more level is there. If I want to pass this, I have to perform some operation. So which operation you have to perform, that is you will get a hint from the first level. With the help of that hint you will, okay, perform operation, then only it opens the door to go to the next level here. That is what we call as a key phrases, and that key phrases you will get from where? You will get from the password function. So this is about your zero knowledge mechanism. Is it clear now? Okay, thank you.